All right, so the new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie was my most anticipated movie of 2025. And I've already given you guys my spoiler-free thoughts, so let's get our meat hooks into some spoilers. Let's go. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mad Blood. And first of all, if you've seen I Know What You Did Last Summer, the newest one, did you enjoy it? Are you a fan of this franchise? Are you kind of in the middle? Are you not a fan? Let me know. All right, and like I said, this is going to be a spoiler video. We're going to get into all the nitty gritty, so you have been warned. We're going to talk about the accident setting up the entire movie, the kills, the reveal, and also we'll talk about the post-credit scene as well. Now, if you want more of my general thoughts on the story, the creative choices, the ending, the character arcs, things like that, then I recommend checking out my spoiler-free review because I focus a little bit more on that stuff in that video. Also, just a heads up as well, I will have a new ranking of this franchise. Also, I have some tier lists coming out as well on this franchise. So you don't miss that stuff, make sure you subscribe because that's the best way to be notified when those new videos get posted. So yeah, if you're new around here, I am a big fan of this franchise, especially those first two movies. We kind of like to forget that that third movie even exists, but the first two movies, just a lot of fun. You know, they're not this mind-blowing story that's this cinematic masterpiece, elevated cinema or anything like that, but just pure slasher 90s fun, in my opinion. And I really do enjoy them. Now, if you've seen my spoiler-free review for the newest I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, it's pretty clear by now that I think this new movie is bad. It really is bad. I think this movie is cliche. It's very unoriginal in a lot of different ways. I think all of those classic beats that this franchise is really known for, the roller coaster ride stuff, the fun ending, the fake outs, the red herrings, all of that, it is non-existent in this movie. Now, other than the fact that we do get Ray and Julie back in this movie, which does elevate things a little bit, I feel like most of this movie is right on par with the I Know What You Did Last Summer TV series on Amazon Prime that was canceled after one season. But anyways, let's just get right into my spoiler review. So again, the premise of this one is 5 friends accidentally kill someone and then they try to cover up any trace that it will come back to them. And then a year later, a madman with a hook starts slaughtering them one by one. Yeah. Sound a little familiar? Now, once they realize that this fisherman is imitating the murders that happened in 1997, they go and track down Ray and Julie to try to get help from them because they're the only survivors from that incident in 1997 to try to help them get out of this mess. So immediately this movie starts out. We're at this engagement party for a couple of our main characters that will also follow throughout the rest of the story, but immediately, it is just generic as hell. I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching all of this, the characters interacting with each other. First of all, where is the charm from Southport that we came to love and know, especially from that first movie? Where is that? And also, everything that I'm seeing here on screen, it feels exactly like a dozen other just corny teen dramas that I've seen on Netflix over the years recently. I mean, honestly, right away, I'm kind of thinking, and I know this sounds cliche, but was this written by a robot? Did you just put this into some AI prompt to come up with what I'm seeing on screen? And it's really clear here in the opening stages of the movie that that great setup in the original movie is long gone. I mean, that great setup of we've got the pageant that immediately introduces you to this small town and what's happening here, the fireworks, the 4th of July vibes, all of that. We immediately meet the characters who somehow they're able to introduce us to these characters in such a quick way, but we immediately know who they are going to be and know how they're going to kind of navigate through this story. You've got kind of the spoiled girl, the nice girl, the jock asshole, the kind of pretty boy nice guy. All these different characters are red herring immediately, and it's just like bam, 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 bam. And it's so effective in that first movie. Then they move to Dawson's Beach. We get the great ghost story stuff next to the campfire, the urban legend stories that really just set the tone for the rest of this movie and kick things off right before the big accident that also sets up the rest of the movie. And yeah, if you've seen any of the trailers, if you've read the plot synopsis, anything like that, you know that something big is coming that's going to help to set up the rest of this movie. And what's weird about it is It's almost a shot-for-shot remake. We're on virtually the exact same highway. The original was shot on the Highway 1 in Northern California. This looks exactly the same. And instead of 4 characters like in the original movie, we now have 5. So that's slightly different. Now, in that original movie, yeah, you can kind of see they're drinking. They're not really looking at the road. So probably something is going to happen. But it's pretty damn shocking. And I think it's pulled off very effectively in that movie. Whereas in this movie, I don't think it is. So Tyriq Withers, his character is like, he's been drinking and he's hanging out in the middle of the road. He's like, wouldn't it be funny if I played chicken with some of these cars? One car goes by, misses him, and they're okay. Another car comes. They don't even hear the car coming. Somehow it's not electric. It's like a late 90s Dodge pickup truck. But anyways, that car sees them at the last moment, swerves, hits the railing, goes down into the water. And here in this moment, for me, I felt like the reactions to everything that happened here didn't seem genuine at all. Like the reactions weren't convincing whatsoever. I mean, like the girl Stevie, who, before this had a falling out with the group, went to rehab and all that stuff, just had some hard times, who ends up being one of the killers. Spoiler, obviously. She's adamantly against them leaving the scene of this crash. They're having the same conflict like in the first movie. Should we leave? Should we not leave? We're going to get caught. We're going to get in trouble, blah, 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 blah. You have people who are being nice, people who are kind of being more of like a, don't have a moral compass, kind of being an asshole. That whole dynamic, right? We know it. We've seen it before. Whereas here, like the Stevie girl, 1 minute, she is adamantly against them leaving this scene. And then 5 seconds later, she's like, yeah, let's get out of here. But this whole accident scene that is, of course, going to set up the rest of this movie. It's, of course, going to set up the letters they're going to get about, I know what you did last summer. Kind of a big scene in this movie, but it just feels so rushed and so abrupt. Whereas I feel like in that original movie, the characters you could really feel were at this crossroads in life. All of them, they told us even these dreams and aspirations they had after graduating high school. It was like this huge crossroads, and it just shows you, a lot of us have done a lot of dumb shit when we were teenagers. I know I did. And it shows you how if just one little thing goes wrong, all of your dreams and ideas and plans are completely erased in a second. And you could feel that in the original movie through the characters, their panic and everything like that. Whereas in this movie, they're so apathetic, it is almost shocking. So yeah, after the crash, they drive away. One of the or a couple of the characters think that they're going to the police station, but they're not actually going to the police station. Tyriq Withers' character, his dad, is like this real estate mogul, basically the most powerful man in Southport. He's like, don't worry, my dad's going to cover this all up. We're going to be fine. They come to an agreement just like the original movie. We're not going to talk about this, right? We're going to sweep it under the rug. And then we get the typical time jump, normal for the franchise. But this time it's, okay, we cut to one of our main characters who's basically just a Julie copycat. She's making out with a chick in an airport bathroom for some reason. And it's the girl who's going to be the true crime podcaster added to this story, which I'll talk about more in just a minute, the whole true crime podcasting angle and how stupid that is. But this girl's sole purpose in this movie is just to wander around a couple scenes until she's eventually killed at the old place where the Shivers department store used to be. So yeah, I talked about this a bit in my spoiler-free review, but this true crime podcaster idea, an idea I can't even tell you how many times we have seen in the last several years in slasher movies. Like, guys, put it to rest. It's not interesting. It's not cool. I get it. True crime podcasts are popular. They're always on the most popular podcast list that I always see. I get that. People love it. But this is not interesting. This is not original at all. Plus, this girl you chose and just how you made her in this movie, she is as cliche as you could possibly get. She's like so fake edgy in this movie. This was an absolutely awful idea and an completely unoriginal idea to add to this movie. When I saw that, I was like, this has to be a joke. Just off the top of my head, Halloween 2018, Terrifier 3, the Scream TV show, all things in the slasher subgenre we've seen with true crime podcasters, and the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, of course, that big opening scene is kind of a make or break moment for the rest of this movie. It sets up the entire buy-in from the audience for the rest of the movie. And this one, honestly, is just lackluster at best. I mean, there are no fun jump scares at all, like in that original movie, like when they're trying to push Ben Willis into the water. He gives us a couple great jump scares right there. You know, I remember watching the movie for the first time with my mom and my wife, and they jumped the hell out of their socks. Also, no great red herrings either, like Max in the original movie, which I think was really effective. And also no little unique, interesting curveballs either, like in that original movie when we see David on the cliffs, who we immediately think it's David that they must have ran over, right? And then we see the little I love you locket in that original movie, just little nuggets of gold that just help to throw you off the scent of who is going to be the killer at the end of this movie. Just great stuff. Whereas this movie, there is none of that. So yeah, like in the original movie, 1 year has gone by. So you ask yourself, okay, how has this been weighing on the characters? How has it changed their life? And kind of similar to the original movie, yeah, it's been weighing on them. But in that original movie, Julie, you can clearly see it. It's almost made her physically ill. She's very pale. She looks very different. Her mom can clearly see that something's up. Her mom's like, "Are you on drugs, Julie?" But she's failing out of school. Whereas here we get just 1 or 2 lines about, yeah, I haven't talked to you in the last year, but hey, I love you. You're still my close friend. Hey, do you want to go party? It's like, guys, what are we doing here? Now, if you saw the first trailer for this movie, you saw the first big kill of this movie. It's basically just a random dude who's now up until this point engaged to Madelyn Cline's character because the engagement with the other guy, Tyriq, got completely just broken off for whatever reason. They go into it a little bit in this movie, but this random guy, you know, he's just very generic. He's just thrown into this movie. His sole purpose in this movie is just to set up to die in this scene. Now, on one hand, yeah, it's kind of cool that the fisherman is using something new. He's using this spear gun to kill somebody. You know, it's kind of, I guess, pushing things forward a little bit, adding a little something to this franchise, I guess. But the way this whole kill scene goes down, it's very much got a little bit of like that Casey Becker vibe from the original Scream, just with the house and the pool and how that is, but nowhere near the tension or the setup. It's just so cliche, so predictable. There's so much digital gore going on and all of that. It's not horrifying at all. And probably worst of all, in this scene, we get introduced to the new footstep sounds for the fisherman in this movie, which basically sounds like a T-Rex is stomping into the house, which I don't need to rant and rave about too much, but whoever came up with this creative idea to put these footstep sounds in this movie, I don't know what you were thinking. It also makes it weird how the fisherman is able to sneak up on people constantly throughout this entire movie, but yet you clearly make us believe that his footsteps are like Godzilla or something like that. But it just sounds weird and fake and just dumb. So a pretty big part of this movie is up until this point, all these years later after the events in 1997, the kills that happen, which are canon in this movie as well. Because like I said, this is not a remake. It's not technically a reboot. It's technically a sequel. It is kind of like a reboot, but it's a sequel, they've told us, even though the name is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Why? But anyways, so yes, this is a sequel, but Southport has changed. So Tyriq Withers, his character, his dad is like this massive real estate mogul who's pretty much been the spearhead of the person who's reinvigorated Southport. And how has he done that? Well, by basically erasing everything that has happened in 1997. All of the articles, the news, basically all of the information about the kills that happened in 1997, which did affect the economy, which did affect the town. He has wiped that completely. So the Southport that we've came to know and love from that original movie, the charm, just the pure coastal Americana feel, it's completely gone. And I know that they filmed a lot of this movie in Australia, so I was a little bit worried about how that was going to come across. And yeah, it's just way more modern and way more just like squeaky clean with virtually no charm. And I understand the creative approach to doing that, but I can't not say it doesn't take away from the movie. And yes, in this movie, they do bring back the Shivers department store. They bring it back for another early kill scene in this movie. It's now been changed into like a restaurant bar kind of a thing, whatever. I don't really remember. It's called Bayside something. But this whole scene, the whole purpose of it is to just kill the podcaster girl who is like sort of interested or dating the main character who's supposed to be like the Julie copycat kind of girl. I don't know. They don't really go too much into it. But anyways, in this scene, this is when they introduce the fisherman kind of teleporting. He's all of a sudden like behind a lot of the characters in this movie, but he does that dumb tropey thing where he is behind the character ready to kill them, and he just stands there and waits and waits and waits. He's not going to do anything until they turn around. And I get it, trying to play with his food, but it's a dumb trope because as soon as they turn around, he just misses, and we see that over and over and over in this movie. One of our main girls throughout the scene, they're getting chased and all of that, and this like mousetrap net thing perfectly falls on her, which is also just weird. We get more fan service in the scene, which is, it's not bad, but I get why it's in the movie. It's a little corny, but they use the whole like rope elevator, old school elevator thing that was very iconic from the original movie and all of that. And then the true crime podcaster girl gets murdered in this scene and then gets hung outside of this place, and it's hung in a way where you can kind of just see the news sign dangling, and it shows Shivers, the normal Shivers sign from the department store from the original. So like I said, this podcaster girl is only here for this scene, and it just feels very, very thrown into the movie. I don't have a problem with it, but it's showing us some of the weird, quirky, tropey, dumb kind of cliches we're going to see from the killer throughout the rest of the movie. Plus, on top of that, this podcaster girl gives us the line of, "I fucking hate it here," right before she gets killed. Dumb line. We don't need that. So now that the fiance got killed, this podcaster girl that I'm sure nobody gives a shit about in this movie because they've known her for 5 minutes gets killed. They decide, all right, and it's a fisherman. So this kind of seems like the stuff from 1997. So what are we going to do? There's only been 2 survivors from that event that were really impacted by that, Ray and Julie. So they go and hunt them down to try to get their help. And here's where we get a little bit of the backstory on Ray and Julie. What have they been up to? What are they doing now? Julie is now a teacher, and wouldn't you know it, her main subject that it seems like she teaches a lot about is trauma. Yes, we've seen that a million times in slasher movies, whatever. I don't really have a problem with Julie in this movie. And I think overall, Jennifer Love Hewitt does do a good job in this movie overall. But now, turns out Ray and Julie are now divorced. Very similar to what we saw in Scream 5 and 6. Yes, we've seen this before many, many times. And one of the characters, when they're talking to Ray, trying to get his help, his advice, says, "Wait, you were married to Julie James?" And he goes, "Unfortunately." So Ray now at this point, I believe still lives in Southport, right? His bar, I think, is still in Southport. But anyways, he runs a bar. And throughout the movie, we get more scenes where it's like, okay, the characters still want to party. They want to hook up. There's some, love triangles going on. There's one couple, like the Julie remake girl who's supposed to be a copycat of Julie. She still likes one of the guys that's into the part of this core 5 that were affected by the I Know What You Did Last Summer opening event. They're at her house. I get the most powerful man in Southport wants to cover all of this up, but still there's not a single cop there watching these kids at all, even though they are clearly being targeted by this killer. You could still keep it under wraps. Like, come on now. And also, so Tyriq Withers, he's the son of the most powerful man in Southport. His whole death scene clearly is supposed to be like this big set piece, this big moment in this movie. But to me, I just thought it was kind of dumb. He walks into this weird hallway. It's so modern. I don't even know if it's a house or what this place is. Maybe I'm not rich enough to know, but he walks into this thing and like sets this alarm or does something. And then the fisherman is right there in the shadows, right next to him, like literally just inches from him. They get into a little fight together, it's fine, whatever. And then it kind of a Casey Becker thing where he's kind of crawling back to his parents' house. He can see his mom up in the window and he's kind of like screaming, but he's injured. His dad, though, eventually does come out. He's still alive and he's like, "Oh no." And he kind of holds him and he's screaming for help. And this is where they really should have gone practical with the gore. So the fisherman puts the hook through his neck. Kind of a gnarly kill, pretty juicy and pretty gruesome. But we zoom right in on the kill and the gore. And it's clearly very, very digital, which would have been a very easy practical kill to pull off. And one of my biggest problems with this is, if it was practical, it really would have showed me that this production really knows the foundation of where slasher movies come from, and even the modern era for slasher movies, and how much we as slasher fans love practical gore. And I get slasher fans are not really the general movie-going audience, and that's probably who they're trying to appease to, but still, a gory moment that would have looked so much better if it was done practically. But yeah, it's supposed to be a big set piece, a big kill in this movie. But honestly, I just thought it was pretty anticlimactic, nothing really shocking or original. Now, I don't know if this was in some of the later trailers that were coming out along the way. I have only seen the original first trailer for this movie, but yeah, Helen makes a comeback. Sarah Michelle Gellar makes a comeback in this movie, which was pretty cool. I liked that moment. I thought it was pulled off actually pretty well, but she's not really in the movie because obviously she's dead. They visit her grave, and yeah, there's tons of moments where they show pictures of her and stuff like that. But yeah, she's in a nightmare sequence because two of our main characters are locked in the police station because they're trying to keep them out of the way, and then eventually one of them falls asleep and sees Helen in one of her dreams. And you know, the de-aging that they do on Helen, you know, it's fine. I think it looks okay, I guess. But yeah, kind of cool how at the end of it, she's kind of tormenting this girl and then kind of morphs into a corpse. You know, it was short. It was just a little something, but I thought that sequence was actually pretty fun. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, just the lack of red herrings in this movie so far is just weird. I mean, that's something that's very standard for this franchise, very standard for any slasher movie that came out around Scream. If it's pulled off well and you actually effectively make us believe certain people could actually be the killer when they're not and they're red herrings, it's really a lot of fun when it's done well. Whereas in this movie, you know, throughout most of the movie, I'm like, where is it? And then they introduce the priest. So throughout this movie, the characters have been trying to figure out, okay, does anyone have ties to the person that we killed? Well, the person who died in the car crash. They found out who this person was, very similar to the original movie when they find out who David is, do a little bit of research, and eventually they find out that this priest, who the movie clearly makes him try to look creepy, you know, he shows up and they start playing scary music. He's doing jump scary things. They make him do like evil faces. And even when one of the girls that works with him at the church is like, says the word "our flock," you're immediately thinking cult stuff, weird stuff going on. And then eventually one of the characters in his office finds some stuff, like a little book shrine dedicated to the guy who died. So they're like, oh yeah, this has got to be the killer. They tell the police about it and all of that. But he's added so late that it's not even that interesting. I feel like that's just not pulled off all that well. All right, so let's talk about the reveal at the end of this movie. So there's a big crime scene where Tyriq's character and his dad are kind of like hung up on this thing by the water. The police find them. There's a big crowd of people. And then the friends show up as well. And then they also find the ex-boyfriend in the car dead. So they're freaking out. They're like, all right, we just got to get out of here. So they get on the rich girl's yacht, basically, and they just take off. You know, they're heading out of here. They're like, we're done, you know, and the killer is on the boat with them. And this is when the first reveal happens. And, you know, the fisherman goes after them. We kind of know, I mean, we know who it is because they show the Converse shoes and they give us a hint of who it is before it's revealed. But anyways, the fisherman goes after them and then 2 seconds misses, does all that thing, kind of clumsy. And then 2 seconds later just takes off the disguise and like, yeah, it's me. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's Stevie, a very bland, anticlimactic type of a reveal. A reveal that is just not interesting to me at all. Now, keep in mind, some of my favorite horror villains in all of horror are women. I think women make great villains, dude. So damn good. Pamela Voorhees, one of my favorites ever. Even Billy Loomis's mom from the second Scream movie. Great villain. Love the ending to that movie, how it all goes down. Yeah, like I said, women make great villains in the genre. But honestly, this ain't it. This one with Stevie, it is just not good. So Stevie's motive here is after rehab, after being really down on her luck, having a lot of trauma, just being in a really hard point in life, she really connected with the guy who died. You know, they had a big connection. They were friends or they were dating. I'm not really 100% sure, but you know, they had a big connection. He was really important to her. So after seeing everybody cover this up and basically just let this person die, she was like, it just made her unhinged enough to go on this killing spree. And that motivation, you know, it's fine, I guess, but it's just not a cool, not a mind-blowing reveal by any means. So yeah, on the boat, there's a little scuffle, a whole fight sequence. Ray eventually shows up. Madelyn Cline's character eventually gets slashed and falls off the boat. She ends up surviving, but anyways, Ray shows up, and it seems like he kills Stevie. It happens really, really quickly, though, but Stevie, of course, at the end of this movie is revealed that she is still at large on the loose. Maybe they just haven't found her body. I mean, it's in the damn ocean, but still, yeah. Haven't found her. She's still at large. They obviously lead us to believe. But then after that, Ray and our main character, who's supposed to basically just be Julie, they're in Ray's bar. And here's where we get the next reveal. So we cut to Julie, and Julie all of a sudden realizes, oh shit, Ray is probably behind all of this as well. So we see her race towards, Ray and everything to go and try to help. And then we cut to the bar, and Ray is there with the girl in the bar. Clearly something's up. Then he says something like, hey, you want a clean shirt? And then he's like, all right. She says no. And he's like, all right, suit yourself. He takes off his jacket and reveals the bandage on his arm. And then the girl immediately remembers when, the killer got slashed on the arm, and immediately is like, oh no, he's a part of it as well. And to me, I mean, maybe Ray was just doing it on purpose. I just didn't think it was pulled off all that well. Let's take a movie like Thanksgiving, for example. When the killer, at the end of that movie, I'm not going to spoil it, is revealed, they show the little burrs on his boot or in his socks or whatever. It's a little hint. And then the killer also sees it and realizes, oh shit, they know who I am. But it just feels like a clever little hint to kind of snowball what's going to happen throughout the rest of the movie. Like in this scene, maybe she just notices the bandage barely underneath his shirt, something like that. I don't know, some other creative way. I mean, I haven't been in a writing room for the last whatever, God knows how long, making this movie. It's their job to make a decent script. But I'm sure I could have came up with something in a week or something much better than this. They should have done something so much better. I mean, we've seen so many whodunit movies in the past that are done very effectively. The blueprint is there, guys. Just take it. And yeah, when Ray is revealed as being the other killer in this movie, obviously probably the muscle, a lot of the brains too, but one of the guys obviously we're seeing doing a lot of the work in this movie. I haven't gone back to really dive into the who killed who, that whole thing, but there is a part of me, I know Freddie Prinze Jr. is a big horror fan. He has a podcast about horror movies where he reviews horror movies. There's a part of me that feels like if you gave him a lie detector test, the only way they were probably able to make him come back for this franchise is, I bet that he told him, he was like, I'm only coming back if you let me be the killer. That would be badass, to be the fisherman, to be a horror movie killer, just be known as that, have that on my, plaque for the rest of my life. There's a part of me that feels like that was the only way they could get him to come back. Also, come on, guys. As Ray is fighting Ava in this scene, Ava is kicking his ass easily, holding her strength just as easily against this 200 and whatever pound guy who's in great shape. Like, come on, guys. A little bit ridiculous. Plus, on top of that, so Julie takes off. She's like, oh shit, it's probably Ray. And she would know. She was married to him. She probably saw some of the red flags. And obviously now she has clearly seen that Ray is probably it. So she races to Ray's bar, to the scene. She's probably going to get there when something's going down. She doesn't bring a weapon? Nothing? So as this is all unfolding before us, you're probably thinking like I was. What is Ray's motivation? Why is Ray doing this? And yeah, of course, he gives us a line about the reasons why he's doing this. And he tells us stuff like this. He says, they tried to erase us. I had to make people remember. So here we are. It's like 1997 all over again. It's like, no, it's actually not. This movie is not at all like 1997. But yeah, and then Julie's like, oh, so you were using 1997 as a playbook for these murders. There's just something about it. It just doesn't feel right. It just, you know, if a lot of people have said, oh, something in a movie feels forced, it feels forced. This just feels as forced as I can possibly remember a movie moment being. And also on top of that, guys, so Julie, like I said, shows up without a weapon. What are you doing, Julie? I get it. You're like the nice girl. You wouldn't harm a fly unless you really, really had to. This would seem like a scene where you would really, really need to. She gives us the line. The line. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? Trying to say, Ray, go ahead and kill me. And then bam. They do that whole thing where it looks like, because it's out of frame, you can't see. It looks like he did it. It looks like Julie is dead. Nope. It's the spear gun. And the girl Ava was behind him. She got up because she had a knife in her back. So it kind of seemed like she was possibly dead or dying. But nope. She came back just in time to get Ray. And that line, man, what a great line from the original movie. Of course, a great scene, very memorable, one of the most memorable scenes in this franchise. But it felt very similar to Alien Romulus when they gave us the get away from her bitch line again in that movie, which was like nails on a chalkboard. It was so awkward. This, pretty similar to that. It was bad. And I love how when Ava and Julie are kind of leaving the scene, they're just done with all of this. Julie's like, you know what? Fuck the 4th of July. And Ava's like, yeah, I agree. And I'm sitting in my chair like, it's the 4th of July? You guys have put no effort into showing us that it's the 4th of July or giving us any 4th of July vibes at all, besides like a 2-second scene where we see a couple fireworks. What are we talking about here? And then, yes, like I mentioned earlier, we cut to a scene where Madelyn Cline's character is washing up onto shore like she's fucking Tom Hanks in Castaway. And Ava is also alive, clearly setting up a sequel. But yeah, to wrap things up on this spoiler review, it is now time to talk about the post-credit scene. So we cut to somebody's family room, and the news is on, and whose family room is it? It's actually Carla's. Brandy from the sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. If you remember, she survived that movie, which is also canon with this movie as well. It's weird. I know. It's called I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's not a remake. It's a sequel. It's all the movies, except for I think the third one is canon. But anyways, we're here with Carla. She's watching the news with her husband. You know, it looks like she's doing pretty good, which is awesome. And then all of a sudden, she hears a knock at her door, and it's Julie. And Julie's there to talk about what's been going on. And Julie has a letter and a picture there. And it's Carla's face, well, with Julie in the picture. And Carla is X'd out with a red X on her face. And the note says that it isn't over. And, you know, according to the news and what I said a little bit earlier, Stevie is still at large. So is it Stevie? Is it someone else? Who knows? But then Carla gives us the line. She says, all right, who are we fucking up this time? And Julie says, I was really hoping you would say that. And then the movie officially ends. A fun little post-credit scene. Am I skeptical that a sequel will ever be made to this particular movie? Yeah. I'm not sure if people are really going to enjoy this movie. Maybe I'm an outlier. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of movie reviews. I try to avoid as many things about movies that I'm going to review as possible. So maybe people have been enjoying it. I did see the Rotten Tomatoes score come in that came across my feed. Didn't look too good, but still a fun little post-credit scene. Great to see Carla back. Great to see Sarah Michelle Gellar back. Those are some cool little surprises for me personally. I like those characters a lot, so that was fun. But obviously, setting up the chances for a sequel to this movie, which, like I said, I don't know how successful this movie is going to be because personally, man, big fan of this franchise, obviously a huge slasher fan. And slasher movies, that subgenre, I mean, it's not exactly elevated cinema. I mean, you don't have to do anything crazy to be successful in that subgenre. You just got to do, the typical stuff, pretty damn fun. But this movie, guys, is bad. They basically do everything the first two movies try to do or did successfully. And they try to do it in this movie, and it's just worse in every way. The characters are worse, the kills are worse, the chase scenes are worse, the killer is worse, the reveal, way worse, even though the reveal in the second movie is not all that great. The reveal, I mean, going from Ben Willis to this grizzled, mean, savage, to what we see in this movie, which just feels like thrown in and forced. It's just not good. But anyways, guys, kind of like I said in my spoiler-free review, if you're a big fan of this franchise, definitely go out and see this movie as soon as you can. You might love it. I really do hope that you do. I hope that you see some things that I missed and you really enjoy this movie, because that would be amazing. But I will say, if you're not a big fan of this franchise, you know, you've seen the first 2 movies, or hell, even the first 3 movies, and you're just kind of like, you know, whatever. They don't really do much for me. Then I would avoid this. Just watch it on streaming, or, you know, don't watch it at all. Hopefully you'll watch it at least on streaming to support the genre, which I think is amazing. But is it worth $15 if you're not a huge slasher fan? No, I don't think it is for a movie ticket like that. And me, I'm a big slasher fan, and I still think this movie was bad. It was really, really bad. But anyways, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my tier list video coming out soon on this franchise, my ranking video coming out soon on this franchise. But if you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future videos on the channel, like I said, make sure you subscribe. That's the best way to do that. Also, if you enjoyed this spoiler review, leave a like on it as well. Really does help this video out a lot. But all of my social media links are down below in the description if you want to follow me over there. But anyways, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. There's a lot of things you could do with your time. Just the fact that you hung out here with me, pretty damn cool. So we can share our love for the horror genre, even when the movies are pretty damn bad. But again, thanks so much for watching. My name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.